What does Ye sound like when the chaos quiets and the man is left alone with his thoughts? Let's talk about it. What's going on, y'all? It's your man Lighthouse, and you're now tuned into another episode of Everything for Everybody, and today we'll be discussing Ye's Bully album. Now, there are artists who demand immediacy, and then there's Ye, an artist whose work resists haste, insisting instead on patience as a prerequisite for understanding. To engage with Ye is to slow down, to sit with the architecture of his ideas long enough for their dual nature to reveal itself. His music has always operated on two planes at once, the exoteric and the esoteric, the surface level spectacle and the submerged confession. Bully is no exception. It's not an album that yields itself on first listen. For me, it unfolds. What emerges gradually is a version of Ye that feels unusually centered, not diminished, but distilled. The bombast is still present, but it no longer overwhelms. Instead, it coexists with quiet. The album breathes. There are sonic moments of grandeur that feel engineered for vast communal spaces, followed by passages that retreat inward, contemplative and almost fragile in a sense. It carries the texture of someone who has found, if not resolution, then at least a temporary stillness. For perhaps the first time in years, the noise surrounding him feels absent from the work itself, and what remains is focus. Sonically, Bully clarifies itself in scale. This is music designed for exposure. It reveals the full dimension not in isolation, but in volume. Heard through headphones, it withholds. I felt like when I listened to it initially, I wasn't really feeling it. It didn't give me, it didn't jump out at me. And I think it's because there was an absence of all of the controversy and stuff that surrounds his albums usually. But when played loudly through speakers that allow its low end to bloom and his synths to stretch, the album snaps into focus for me. This has long been Ye's domain, music built for arenas, for shared experiences, for that almost spiritual communion between artist and audience. Stadium status has been a default setting for Ye. As the album unfolds, it becomes clear that the production is not merely accompaniment, but narrative. The beats move with intention, reinforcing the emotional trajectory of his lyrics. There is a sense of arrival here, a quiet suggestion of personal victory. And notably, the project arrives without the familiar storm of controversy that once preceded his releases. Even Bully's earlier iteration, quietly placed on YouTube amid lingering backlash regarding a certain group of people, felt overshadowed by external noise. Here, the music feels renewed. Textures are richer, the intent is clearer. It plays like a message to those who've never left. We endured and we still remain fans of Ye. Spiritually, Ye continues to position himself in dialogue with God, a through line that has defined his work since the college dropout. Think of Jesus Walks, right? He's always had God in all his music. So when he made that pivot to the gospel music, it made sense because he's always, since day one, has put that in the forefront. What's compelling is not simply the presence of faith, but its accessibility. He translates gospel into a language that remains palatable to the secular ear without diluting its essence. There is a recurring motif of three that subtly structures the project. It suggests both the familial trinity of Father, Mother, and Child, and the divine trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. On Damn, there's a single verse that repeats 3 times. The effect is confessional. It reads as a mea culpa, sort of like an acknowledgement of damage done, but also an attempt to measure love not by its fractures, but by what survived them. To me, Bully feels like a continuation and a recalibration. The opening track, King, samples Duke Edwards while revisiting the abrasive textures reminiscent of Yeezus, which is my favorite Ye album, by the way. In a sense, with the distorted drums, serrated synths, and a controlled chaos that signals intent. The song This A Must extends the initial energy with a more turnt and vivacious vibe. I definitely want to see this in concert. I want to experience this album in a concert. I missed the SoFi joint. I might have to fly. If he could get it to New York, that'd be great. You know what I mean? I'm definitely getting tickets for it. On the song Father, Ye is joined by Travis Scott, whose presence feels less like a feature and more like a generational echo, with his energy mirroring the liminal industrial pulse of the track. And I love the James Brown soundbite from when he was on the news wearing the ill glasses with the leather gloves, and he was wilding, right? And James Brown was definitely going through what seemed to be the crash out moment for himself, the godfather of soul. I see what you did there, Ye. The video is also dope too, very symbolic with a lot of overlapping archetypes. The song All the Love featuring Andre Troutman is another stadium banger that leans into melody, allowing vulnerability to surface. There's a willingness here to confront pain without theatrics, to acknowledge it plainly. Then comes the song Whatever Works, arguably the album's emotional and musical apex, built around a sample of Cissy Houston's Don't Wonder Why. The track reconnects Ye to the sensibilities that defined his early work. It is focused, human, and refreshingly grounded, a reminder of the craftsmanship that once redefined the genre. The song Mama's Favorite closes in a more intimate register, offering a tribute to Mama Donda West that relies less on lyricism and more on feeling, culminating in the inclusion of her voice, a gesture that feels less like nostalgia and more like a spiritual grounding. I also love how he reworked the song Circles. The version that I heard online had more of the Cortex sample in it, but this one with Don Toliver is just as dope. It fits the overall vibe of the album, and Preacher Man is one of my favorites on the whole album. On Preacher Man, Ye pivots from self-mythology into something more grounded and purposeful, framing his journey through the lens of permanence and intention. Lines like "Made love that's unmakeable, bonds that's unbreakable" speak to legacy beyond music, emphasizing relationships and impact that can't be undone. When he declares, "Went out my way to make a way," Ye positions himself not as a singular force, but as a pathway for others to follow. The recurring imagery of light reinforces the evolution, casting him as both participant and guide, someone whose experiences now serve as instruction. By the time he invokes God mode, it feels less like ego and more like alignment, a state where creativity, spirituality, and purpose converge into a focused, forward-moving vision. What ultimately defines Bully is not reinvention, but recalibration. It reads as a re-entry point, not just for Ye, but for listeners who may have distanced themselves. There is a sense that he understands the weight of his past actions without allowing them to eclipse the present. And while forgiveness is a personal calculus, the music itself stands on its own terms. Ye's career has always resembled a hero's journey, one marked by ascension, conflict, exile, and return. He has tested the boundaries of both art and public tolerance, often simultaneously. Yet what remains undeniable is his commitment to honesty, however uncomfortable it may be. In a landscape often defined by calculated personas, Ye has consistently chosen truthfulness. Bully doesn't feel like a victory lap. It is something more measured, a statement of persistence, a reminder. After multiple listens, after allowing the layers to settle and its intentions to clarify, the message becomes unmistakable. He stumbled, he fractured, but he remains. And in his own words, whether implicit or declared, the sentiment echoes throughout the album. He's still Ye, and Ye is always going to give us a great body of work. But that's my time, y'all. Thank you for watching another episode of Everything for Everybody. Let me know what you think about this new Ye album, Bully. You know, leave it in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can stay in the loop of what I got going on. And until next time, take care of yourself. Peace. And we out.